Uh, hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to another video. And I'm here to talk about a little movie called Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, which is another video game adaptation of a or movie to video game adaptation of a classic video game. Usually, we don't get video game adaptations of stuff that is like crap. So, we're not gonna get the video game adaptation of stuff like BB and Tina's Horse Adventure or whatever it's called, which is upsetting because we should. Uh, but we do get video game adaptations of big things like Resident Evil. This is if you count the animated movies and the live action Paul W.S. Anderson turds, we have 10 Resident Evil movies. There's 10. And that's not even including the show that came out a few months ago and the show that's coming out in the future on Netflix, which, oh, fuck. Um, it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be so bad. Oh, there's 10 Resident Evil movies. There's way more video games than that. At this point, like I don't care. I just don't care. So when I heard this movie was coming out and it was going to be supposedly more accurate to the video game, I was like, cool, that's great. They got a director I kind of like. I enjoyed 47 Meters Down. I enjoyed the last Strangers movie. Johannes Roberts, I think his name is. And he was writing it too, so it wasn't like going to be just director and then like 45 writers. He wrote it, he directed it. He's a fan of the games. He even showed things in the trailers. I'm like, okay, the trailers themselves weren't great, but I liked, like the RPD looks like the RPD. The Spencer Mansion looked like the mansion. Maybe the characters don't look like themselves quite, like you would expect. But if they act like the characters, then that doesn't matter. So this isn't really going to be a review. This is really just going to be me turning the camera on and talking. So, I wrote down my notes. I usually do this when I do a review. Not often do I review stuff anymore, but whenever I did review stuff in the past, I would write down my notes. Usually, what I do is pros and cons. So I put a little plus sign for pros, I put a negative sign next to the cons. I have way more negatives than I have positives. Now, that's not to say that I absolutely hated this movie, because I really didn't. But it was one of those movies where I'm just like, it had just so many things wrong with it. It's for the most part, competently made movie, but there was just so many things that you just wonder, like, why? Like, what's the point of doing this type of Resident Evil movie where it's accurate but only surface level accurate? Like, oh, look, here's RPD. We're not gonna do anything with RPD, but look, it looks like it. Oh, look, it's Spencer Mansion. Yeah, here's the hallway. Oh, there's the stairs and all that. Yeah, that's cool. Are we gonna do anything with it? No. Are we gonna actually be accurate to the stories of the first two games? No. Are we gonna at least be accurate to something? No. Is Leon gonna be Leon? No, he's gonna be a dumbass. Is Chris gonna be Chris? No, he's gonna be kind of like kind of there, but not really. If you ever want to see Chris Redfield fight William Birkin, I guess this is the movie for you. If you ever want to see Chris Redfield save Sherry Birkin, then this is the movie for you. If you ever want to see Claire Redfield be a generic protagonist, if you want Claire and Jill to both feel like the same exact character because they have almost literally zero personality, then this is the movie for you. You wanted Alex Wesker to not say a single thing snarky and kind of funny in a corny way. This is the movie for you. You wanted all these characters to be as generic and formulaic and boring as possible. This is the movie for you. But hey, they put Jill Sandwich in there. Jill Valentine says, "This is Jill Sandwich." Looks at the camera, winks. Doesn't have a beret on though. What the fuck? You want to see a liquor? You saw the trailer. You saw how good the liquor actually looked in the close up, right? Well, that's all the liquor will be in there for that whole part in the trailer. That's it. I'm not even kidding. The liquor's barely in it. There's only one, too. Um, you want to see William Birkin as a big monster? The full evolution of the G virus. Well, that one shot in the trailer, that's about all you get. You want to see Ada Wong? No, you won't. After seeing this movie, whoever the hell they cast as her, good lord, did they just it really seems like they cared, but also couldn't care at the same time. Like all right, they wanted to care, they tried to care, but they just couldn't get to that level of actually giving a shit. All right, let's get to the positives first, okay? All right, I'm just gonna rattle these off because I like these positives are so like base level. First, Easter eggs. That's one of my first positives. You know, a movie's fucked when one of the first positives is Easter eggs. I did like the Easter eggs. Okay, like a lot of background stuff, a lot of the scenery. I did like that they really did replicate the game. I mean, sure, some things look a little bit weirder and some things look smaller. I think that's probably because of the budget. Supposedly, it only was a $25 million budget. I thought at first I heard 40 million, but I looked earlier today and it was 25 million. Which, after seeing the movie, I'm like, yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised it's that high after seeing the fucking movie. We'll get to that. But Easter eggs, there's some cool things. You'll see like there's a part where someone actually does a puzzle from the original game, a classic one involving a piano, which I thought was fun. There's like keys. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil all these Easter eggs just in case you're watching, because legit Easter eggs is one of the only things in this that is actually really cool about it. The cast does a good job for the most part. Like, there's a couple of bad actors here and there. We'll talk about Ada later. The truck driver guy I thought was terrible. He was obviously a comedian that they cast in that role, and he was really bad. And even though, you know, like I think the actress for Claire, who I really like, she was in some movies in the past that I would actually recommend, like Crawl, and I forgot her name from Ant-Man and the Wasp. She plays Jill. I think they're generic characters and have no personality, but they do a decent job with that. I have some in my eye right now. Jesus, I hope it's not a tear because they, you know, 10 movies in, they're still fucking up Resident Evil. I don't know what to do. 10 movies. You had the 6 Paul W.S. Anderson movies. You had the 3 CGI movies, and I have this, and that's not even including the show that came out a few months ago. Um, and I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting. There probably is something else I'm forgetting. And then, of course, the dozens of video games. Um, but yeah, like, they do fine. Like, I was actually surprised by how much I liked the guy that played Alex Wesker. I mean, again, no personality really, but I was surprised because I thought he'd play it like a dude bro. I really thought he would. But he played a little bit differently. It's still no personality, but I was surprised. I thought he was fine. I thought it was the guy that played Dickon in Game of Thrones. Um, Dickon. Funny. Um, but yeah, the cast is fine. They're fine. Like I'll talk about Leon later, but I thought that actor did an okay job with what he had to do. I guess not his fault. I'm surprised by this. I know this is a weird positive, but actually, this is actually one of the biggest positives of this movie. The movie's not filled with jump scares, which when I heard they were actually leaning into more of the horror of Resident Evil, I was like, oh, if this movie's bad, then it's just gonna be filled with fucking jump scares. And don't get me wrong, there are jump scares, but it's not like every couple minutes. Like, it doesn't even get to the horror aspect of the game. I mean, I guess the game of the movie until like 45 minutes in, which the movie's not very long. It's like 100 minutes altogether. So it takes a little while to get to the actual point. There's a couple of moments before that, but it doesn't really get to the RPD and Spencer Mansion stuff until around then. Um, so yeah, you got that. Not many jump scares. I'll give it that. Like, and there's actually a couple of moments that actually was like when the jump scares happen, it was actually effective enough. It wasn't like I'm not gonna fucking be sweating tonight while trying to sleep, but like it's not terrible. And like I said, a lot of the sets are really good. I think the set design is very very well done. Looks straight from the game. Some of it actually looked really good, like legit good, not just because, you know, oh, it replicates the game, but it's actually not bad. Like, the RPD looks good. They barely do anything with it, but it looks good. Same thing with Spencer Mansion. They barely do anything with it. Like, the Spencer Mansion, I feel like I want to say the Spencer Mansion, most of the time you see it is in the dark, which isn't exactly accurate to the game. Which is like, I mean, I get it. It makes sense in the movie. It's not like it's just like, oh, it's all dark and that's it. And it's not explained why. But it was just very weird that they did that. And I'm assuming that was budgetary, so they could just keep reusing the same like sets and pretend like it's a mansion. You're like, oh, here's this hallway set we have. We'll just use the same hallway set for like the multiple different hallways that people are gonna go through. It reminded me a lot of that Doom Annihilation movie that came out a couple years ago, the straight to DVD one, which is never a good sign when this is a theatrical release, and it reminds me of a straight to DVD piece of shit. But like that had the same thing where it was like there's a few special effects, but for the most part, it's all like the same sets over and over again. It's all generic looking, but these sets are better, admittedly. That's it. So let's get to the negatives, because good lord, oh man. All right, straight off the bat, the first problem with this movie is that it's dull. It is dull. It is. It's more dull than a bowling ball, as Foghorn Leghorn would say. Um, yeah, it's just dull. I really have no reason. I mean, no way to explain this. It's just like it starts off slow with a couple of, I guess, a creepy moments featuring Lisa Trevor, which we'll get to Lisa Trevor. Um, but like the whole movie is just like kind of slow and meandering, and there's no oomph to it. You know what I mean? There's nothing to it. That's the problem. Is like when they do action scenes, it's mostly in the dark, and it's like a bunch of flashes, and it's supposed to be tense, but it's not. Characters kind of just stand around and talk, or like look at things, or it's just stuff like, yeah, especially if you play the video game, you already know where it's going. So like even though they combine one and two together in one story, you still know where it's going. Like, oh, they mentioned a train. Oh, they mentioned shit, now I'm already forgetting the movie. They mentioned this or that, and you know where it's going. Even if you've never played the games, you'll be like, all right, I guess they'll probably have to fight that guy. Like, yep. It's just like it's like it's almost like watching someone speed run the first two games, but only watching the cutscenes of that speed run. You know, like the speed. You know how like speedrunners can figure out ways to like end the cutscene quick or something like that. It almost feels like that, or like because the gameplay is like cut out completely, or it's like they're just like passing by everything, so it feels like it's being cut quick. It almost feels like watching a speed run of Resident Evil 1 and 2 if they were both combined somehow. It's weird. The characters are extremely weak. Like I said, Jill and Claire have like the same personality. Chris is just barely there. He's like he's honestly not in the movie that much. And when he's there, he's usually getting his ass beat by zombies, or he's shooting in the dark, and it's all confusing. Uh, Wesker, he's not Wesker, but whatever. He's not the worst character in the movie. That crown goes to Leon S. Kennedy. Actually, Chief Irons it probably goes to, because they don't even go into the dark reveal of that character, which is really upsetting, because I thought that would have been kind of interesting. Um, they barely even touch on that. Like Donald Logue does an okay job with that character, but good lord, they didn't even fucking try. But Leon S. Kennedy, all the other characters are vaguely their characters from the video games. Leon S. Kennedy is nothing like his character from the video games. Now he's a rookie. That's about as far as it gets. I don't really even mind the casting at all, or even the way he looks. You know, because he didn't cut his hair or shave the fucking facial hair. Like I don't give a fuck if he ain't a blonde haired white dude. I don't give a shit. Or I guess he's like dirty blonde. I don't give a fuck. I don't care really. As long as he gets someone that's good in that role, it doesn't matter. And he's fine in this role. Like I didn't mind him. I thought he was fine, but he's a dumbass. They made him a moron. He's a fucking idiot. Like, for the most part, he's useless. Like, Claire has to save his ass like 3 times, and he barely does anything. There's only one thing he does towards the end, and I guess that's supposed to be like the redemption arc for him. Like, oh, there we go, he did something. He just pulls a bazooka out of nowhere and blows the thing up. There's gonna be spoilers. Who gives a fuck? And in the game, that bazooka made sense. Here, I'm gonna spoil right here. Ada Wong is not a part of the story. Like you think, oh, Ada and Leon's little relationship, that's gonna go somewhere. And if you're gonna take that out, at least make it so Leon and Claire have more of a relationship, because they're always split apart in that game, obviously, with little moments where they talk. No. I mean, they're together, but they fucking barely do anything together. I think they share maybe 2 conversations really, and they don't. There's nothing there. There's no like friendship there. There's no friendship between any of the characters. You feel almost nothing for anybody. Brad Vickers like barely even talks. He dies in this movie. Spoilers. So I guess Resident Evil 3 is off the table. I mean, not that it matters really. It doesn't. These are just weird things about this. Like it's not accurate. Like there's so many things not accurate. Like Ada Wong not be a part of it. Sherry's barely in it. Sherry like I think has 2 lines. like William Birkin and Annette Birkin. Annette Birkin's just a wife. She's not a part of the science or anything. She doesn't do anything involving that, even though they're supposed to be they're both supposed to be William Birkin and Annette Birkin is supposed to be a part of it. She's just there. She gets shot in the head. She's dead. Fucking whatever. Um, there's no Sherry, what the Chief Irons thing at all. Like again, Sherry's barely in it. They just put her in it so they could say Sherry's in it. There we go. Sure, there she is. There she is. There Sherry is. It's that's why I think it's just surface level. It's really annoying when movies do this with video games. And Resident Evil's not the deepest plot or anything, but like for fuck's sakes, really? Anyway, so terrible use of great characters. That was one of the next negative. Even though that's can coincide with weak characters, but like you can have weak characters but still use them effectively for the video games. You know what I mean? Like, oh, have them do things that the characters will do. Maybe you don't like those characters in this movie, but at least they're doing things those characters would do in the game. But I think it was a terrible use of great characters here. It's very cheap looking. The special effects, not that it matters because most of the special effects are on screen for maybe a minute. You thought like that really stupid looking William Birkin at the end of the first trailer was terrible looking. Well, guess what? There's only about 2 shots of that thing in the movie, and then Leon shows up with a bazooka, blows it up. Which, by the way, after he blows it up, it just like disappears. Which okay. The third act is terrible. That's another negative. The third act is just like we gotta end it because we're running out of budget. I don't know. Blow it up with a bazooka that Leon magically found, even though it was supposed to be Ada that gave it to him. And he's not even whatever. Fuck it. It doesn't matter really. And it really annoys me when I see people say it's like super accurate. It's not. Like it's not. They have the names of the characters and like the locations are kind of accurate. That's about it. Like the stories themselves are familiar, sure, and again you can predict where it's going, but the execution is not accurate even a little bit. Like some of the really cool things about Resident Evil 1 and 2 are not in it at all. Where the fuck is Barry Burton? Where's Jill's beret? I'm not gonna leave that alone. At least give her the beret. Like fucking hell. I'll take Leon having fucking facial hair. I don't give a fuck. The beret, and don't tell me it's fucking silly because this entire movie's fucking ridiculous. Okay. But anyway, yeah, the special effects are terrible. Yeah, just like even though the sets are cool, a lot of the rest of the movie looks cheap. Like I said, it feels like they're reusing sets as different sets. There's even like makeup for the zombies that look kind of goofy. There's even like shots of the city that look really cheap. Like they explain that the city is almost completely abandoned, which I feel like it's a good way to get around not having a lot of extras going crazy and stuff, because you could do the Resident Evil 2 thing where like it's nuts in the beginning and like Leon and Claire are off on their thing and there's like zombies everywhere and stuff, but obviously they didn't have the budget for that, so they just said nah, everybody's gone except for some people. Some people are still there. The poor can't leave, so they stay there or whatever. The super poor, I guess. Uh, uh, I didn't like the use of zombies too. Like whenever they show up, like the makeup's not the best, and like a lot of the blood is CG, and it's very dark at times. And just, if you're gonna use the zombies, they're also like fast moving zombies too at times, which I'm like, all right. I mean, fuck it. I don't even want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. It's just like I don't know. Like I wasn't even like that super excited for it. I mean I kind of was earlier today before I went to go see. I was like, oh, Resident Evil, huh? But like even watching the trailer, I'm like that's probably gonna be shit. But I was hoping it would at least be so bad it's fun. It really wasn't. Like the Resident Evil movies in the past, I would say every single Resident Evil movie, including the CG ones, have been way more fun in a bad way than this. This was just bad. Again, it wasn't like horrible, but it was just bad. It was just I don't even want to talk about it that much. It really was one of those movies I'm just like they didn't care really. Like maybe he did again, maybe he did, but he didn't quite reach care. Maybe he tried to care, but just I don't know. The editing's not very good too. Like there's times where I'm like, okay, so you just saved that character by editing, cutting away, and then coming back and they're saved. Like it was like Game of Thrones all over again the last season with the like, oh no, he's about to get killed by a bunch of Night Walkers or whatever. Oh, we'll cut away, we'll cut back, and he's fine. I'm like, what the fuck? What happened? Like there was a lot of scenes like that. Like Chris died like 5 times in this movie, and a lot of the editing is really bad, but a lot of the lighting too. I can't get over how bad the lighting sometimes was. Like, I'm just like, I can't tell what's happening. I remember in the last Resident Evil movie, the final chapter, the editing was awful, but at least that movie was so stupid but fun and bad. Like I can get over it. This is just not like it's there's some bad lines, but for the most part, it's not funny bad. It's just it's just bad. It really is. The third act, like I said, is extremely rushed. Like Birkin turns into, uh, I keep forgetting the name of what they call, they call like late stage Birkin or G mutated Birkin or whatever. Doesn't matter. It looks completely different than what it looks like in the video game anyway. It looks like a fucking like a epic like an Unreal asset fucking flip. Like they just took some monster from Unreal Engine and just like brought him in here or something because it looks so terrible and stupid. They had like the first form of Birkin, which I thought was kind of cool. There's some good makeup on him. You see like the two big eyes and stuff. That was kind of cool. I'm struggling here, guys. I'm really struggling. I don't. It's shallow. That's straight up it. Like look at this poster. The poster looks shit. Like look at that. That looks like it should be like the cover of like a shitty like a I want to say like the art book or something or like it wouldn't be the poster. It would be like the magazine cover or something. Like I don't know. Like for when like a magazine is made that actually covers this piece of shit. Like I don't know. And my last negative is the post credit scene. Now, we all know Wesker's a bad guy, and in this they try to make him like a. By the way, they try to hook Wesker and Jill up, which I thought was very strange. Like Jill has a thing for Wesker, I think they say at one point, and they make it seem like they're like good friends. Very strange, which is really weird because they also make it seem like Chris really wants Jill, which everybody knows in the Redfield lineage lore it's the other way around. Jill really wants Chris, but Chris doesn't care about Jill because Chris is too busy trying to get Claire to fuck Leon, so he could continue the Redfield legacy or lineage or whatever. Redfield bloodline. Sorry, there you go. So that's not accurate at all. That's another thing that's not accurate. Um, no Barry Burton. I wanted to see that beautiful man's gun, which that sounds weird, but I mean, I give them credit. They implemented puzzles at times, which was funny. Lisa Trevor, I didn't even talk about. Speaking of a great character, Lisa Trevor is just there to be an experiment. Which, to be fair, that's her character in the original. Well, the remake, I guess, because she wasn't in the original. But her character in the original remake was really scary, like really fucked up and sad. And in this, like they try to be like, oh no, they experiment on children, and that's about it. That's literally they look at the camera and say, wow, Raccoon City. I mean Raccoon City. Wow, Umbrella. They experimented on children. And then Claire's like, I'm upset. Fuck it. It's just whatever. But Lisa Trevor could have been cool. I like that they went practical with her, but I think that was only because they probably didn't have the budget to do anything else. So it's just like a regular woman with like a kind of fucked up face and like a skin mask. Like at least they kept the skin mask. I don't know if it's supposed to be actual skin because this version of Lisa Trevor doesn't make sense if she is that fucked up because she doesn't really like she helps Claire and Leon at one point. Spoilers: the liquor is barely in the movie. There's one. I'm serious. The two shots you see of the liquor in the trailer is pretty much it for the liquor. And then Lisa Trevor comes behind and breaks its fucking neck or jaw or whatever, which was fun. That was probably the bloodiest it got too. Like most of the blood is just like CG blood splatters. There's a couple of decent ones, but for the most part, like it's R rated, but like who cares? Like all the Resident Evil movies have been R rated, so it's not like Mortal Kombat, where Mortal Kombat is like finally a Mortal Kombat movie is rated R. By the way, Mortal Kombat leaps and bounds better than this because you could say, "Oh, Cole Young sucks," but so many of those characters were well done for the most part. Maybe not so many, but a few at least. Kano was great. I thought Sonya was good. I thought for the most part Scorpion and Sub Zero were really well done. Uh, but yeah, it's just like fucking like that movie was just more entertaining, just straight up. Like there's almost no personality in this, and that's the biggest fault, honestly, because I could really forgive a lot of these mistakes and just like not giving a shit about the source. If it was just entertaining and fun and even made me laugh sometimes, I don't think I laughed once. And there was a couple jokes, I guess, but there's one time where I scoffed in the theater. There's only about 5 other people in there. When she fucking does her little Jill sandwich joke, I'm like, fucking hell. Like, that's the kind of humor we're gonna get. We're gonna get stupid shit like that. This is Jill's sandwich now. Gum, gum, gum. Barry Burton was supposed to say that fucking line. He's not in the movie. Well, at least they put the journalist guy in Resident Evil 2. They at least put him in there because that was very necessary. But Barry Burton, nah, he ain't fucking necessary. Fuck him. Who gives a shit? You care? No, you don't. You do, but I'm gonna pretend you don't because obviously the fucking filmmakers didn't want to. I keep dropping my pen on the table like because I'm angry. I'm upset, but I'm not even really that upset. Obviously, I'd be fucking ranting and getting red. I'm just like I just. All right, so let's go through my negatives real quick again. The movie's dull. The characters are weak. It's extremely cheap looking. The editing is not very good. Terrible use of great characters, different from weak characters. Third act sucks. It's just completely rushed and terrible. The use of zombies made me sad. And the post-credits scene. Let's talk about this post-credits scene. Okay, so Wesker's a bad guy. Big surprise. But they made him like a bad guy, but reluctant almost, and he feels bad about it or whatever. Which I'm like, fuck that. But he gets killed, and you're like, okay, he's not gonna stay dead, obviously. And surprisingly, he's alive. Wow, weewa. But at the end, he's like, there's this whole like cringy scene of him like going, oh, as he wakes up in a body bag. He's like, oh. It goes on for way too long. He's just going, oh. He goes up to a door. He's like, oh. I'm like, what the fuck? Can you please stop? And I'm like, what the fuck is the problem? I get you just woke up from being dead. I guess that's the problem. But you find out it's because he's blind now. He can't see. So someone hands him some shades. Which I was like, come on now, really? Is that why he's wearing the shades, really? Because maybe in the lore, maybe that makes sense, actually, to be fair. Because I don't remember much about the lore around his eyes. Maybe that makes sense. I thought he just wore the shades because he had like weird eyes, but I didn't know he was blind. Maybe I'm wrong. And also he's a suave motherfucker in Resident Evil 5. So, and even like Code Veronica when he shows up there. But yeah, so someone's talking to him like, oh, it took a lot to bring you back, so you better like work for us or whatever. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'm blind and in pain, but I'm gonna ask this so you could look at the camera and say your name. Oh, who are you? And then a lady turns around, and I swear to God, the acting in this scene just reminded me of like a porn parody. I watch a lot. I'm a connoisseur. But it was like straight up. I don't know who's playing her, but fucking hell, she was terrible in her one little scene. She was so bad. And of course, she's like, "My name is Ada Wong." I'm like, "Where the fuck were you throughout the goddamn movie, you fucking idiot? Why did they make two? Why did they make one movie out of 2 games? I don't understand it, especially when there's plenty of characters in each of those fucking games to really, really focus on. It's like Johannes Roberts was like, you know what? I know this movie's gonna bomb, and I want to do the first 2 games, so fuck it, let's just do it. Like, what are they gonna do with Resident Evil 3? Is Jill gonna be a main character if they ever did a Resident Evil 3? Like, that's gonna be the worst, because this is the worst version of Jill ever. Even worse than Resident Evil 5 Jill, who literally does nothing besides just be evil, and she has a thing on her tits. Like, and you have to attack it. Like, what the all these characters are the worst versions of these characters, even including Resident Evil 6, Leon, and Chris. Like, it's just, anyway, that post-credit scene was terrible. I really have no energy. Like, this video's gone on way fucking longer than it should have. 30 minutes of me just kind of getting upset about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. If I had to give it a score, again, I didn't hate it, but Me talking about it more and more is making me get closer to hating it. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. That's probably way more than it deserves, but the set design's pretty good. The cast does a fine job. I appreciate that they tried with some of the horror elements. I like the Easter eggs. There's some thought put into that stuff, but again, like I said, surface level. So they cared about the surface level stuff, you know? Like if you played the game by skipping all of the story stuff, and just kind of barely paying attention, this is kind of the surface level stuff. Like kind of like you just writing down notes like this, where like it's just guidelines more so than anything else. Um, like, oh, we got to put some keys in there that have like a heart shape or whatever. Oh, we got to put a piano that plays a song to open a door or whatever. Oh, we got to put the hallway with the stairs and stuff. We got to put a dog in. We got to put a liquor in. We got to put, like, it's just like he played the first two games and was just like, yeah, here's a, yep, that's all. Like, oh, you want to put any of the actual characters in the game? No, we'll just call them the characters and then they'll just be generic. Fuck it. Again, they're not the deepest characters, but fucking hell, they literally give them nothing. Like they don't feel like the characters at all. Leon's a fucking idiot. How do you make Leon a fucking moron? He's supposed to be level-headed, and he gets the job done. And in this, like, sure, he falls for Ada pretty quick in Resident Evil 2, but besides that, he still gets the job done. Here, he barely does anything. He shoots a bazooka once and goes, "Yeah, there you go, I did some." He gets angry at one point, and shoots a zombie that were like that's it. Literally, that's all he did. One of the best characters in the Resident Evil franchise. He doesn't say anything quippy too. Like I would have been okay with if they made him a dumbass, but he had like the quips that he has in Resident Evil 4. So like, yeah, bro, you know, like I don't know. It's just it could have been much better. Even for a $25 million budget, I don't give a fuck. This could have been better with a $25 budget. There's fan films that are probably great that cost next to nothing. I didn't like it very much. And the biggest disappointment here is that this is probably going to be the last Resident Evil movie we're going to get because it bombed horribly. Even for a $25 million budget, I think through the 5-day weekend it made $8 million. And a horror movie like this will drop quickly next week. This is going to be a huge bomb, unless it does well in foreign markets, which the last 6 Resident Evil movies did very well. So, but I think they did very well in China, and I don't think China's really opening a lot of movies from America yet, because a lot of the Marvel movies still haven't opened up there. So we'll see. Like maybe that Netflix show will be better. It looks like they're going like YA young adult bullshit with that. So I have a feeling though. And even though I love Lance Reddick, he is my name is Alex Wesker. He's just gonna talk like fucking his character from John Wick, like and fucking even like his Destiny character and his Horizon Zero Dawn character. Like it's just gonna be the same shit. I just fucking fuck it. Nobody cares. Why do I care? I don't care. I don't care anymore. Just for now on, I don't care. Fuck this movie.